Hi, it's Tanya. I'm looking forward to doing the lesson this week. This has been one of the weeks I've been really waiting to do because I met a really great artist, Jerome Whitkin, years ago, and he would share how biblical art told the history of what people thought about the Bible over the years. And there's a certain artist that did something really cool that I always wanted to show the kids, so I hope you'll stick with me. This week's Parsha is about when Moses was up on the mountain for 40 days, and he got that amazing revelation from God last Parsha. In fact, the last Parsha, the entire Parsha, was about this vision God gave Moses for the temple and how to build the tabernacle for God, where the Ark of the Testimony would be and the menorah would be, and it was going to be a beautiful place for God to meet with his people. But then when he comes, while he's still up on the mountain, this week's Parsha starts. And while he's up there, he's just gotten this tremendous vision from God. And then God tells him that the people are down there making a molten calf, making a golden idol, while Moses is up meeting with God. And so sometimes I find it really, like I thought a lot about that this week, about, how often it is that God can be doing something wonderful over here, and we can be totally, make a huge mess over there at the same time. And how while he was trying to bless them, they were missing an opportunity to be faithful. And so if you go ahead and read that part of the story, it goes on to talk about how Moses, so Moses goes down from the mountain. And after he goes down from the mountain, he has to face his brother, Aaron. And Aaron says something to the effect of the idol leapt out of the fire. Like even though he was integral to creating it, and I'm sure was very pressured by the people around him, he doesn't really accept full responsibility for making it, which is another startling thing. But you think about how Moses comes down and he's just had this tremendous time with God, and all of a sudden he's looking at what all the people have done, and he smashes the tablets, which is why we have the tablets smashed here. And because we often think about the tablets, but we don't think about the fact that there were two sets of them. There was the set that he came down the mountain with, and then there was a set he had to, God asked him to go back up the mountain, and God made another set of tablets, which were the ones that got carried in the ark. But this is the broken set. And the part that is so startling to me is that God withdrew himself from the people. He said he couldn't be in their camp. He would draw himself away. And Moses begged him, please don't, don't let your presence leave from us. How will the people know? How will the nations know that we're your people if you don't dwell among us? If you don't lead us, then we're not going. And that's when Moses cries out and says, show me your glory. And the Lord hides him in the cleft of the rock and lets his goodness pass before him. And this is where you read the 13 attributes of God, which I believe is right in here. Yeah, it's right in Exodus 34:13, where Adonai passes before him and proclaims, Adonai, Adonai, the compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger and abundant in loving kindness and truth, showing mercy to 1,000 generations, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, yet by no means leaving the guilty unpunished, but bringing the iniquity of the fathers upon the children and upon the children's children to the third and fourth generation. Then Moses quickly bowed his head down to the earth and worshipped. And he said, if now I have found grace in your eyes, my Lord, let my Lord please go within our midst, even though this is a stiff-necked people. Pardon our iniquity and our sin, and take us for your inheritance. So there's this, God actually offers to start over with Moses and Moses' offspring. And which, at first glance, if you're up on the mountain partying with God, doesn't sound like such a bad idea. But Moses loved the people, and he knew that, how is his lot going to be any better if God wasn't truly compassionate and merciful and willing to forgive? So God has to forgive the people. Moses has to forgive his own brother, not to mention the people. And then I think also Moses has to think about, why would God let this happen while he's up there partying with God? Couldn't he have done something? Would it have been different if Moses had been there? Sometimes we look back in those circumstances and we say, God, we don't understand how something wonderful can be happening here while something horrible is happening over there. And yet Moses' love relationship with God is what carried this nation into starting to trust God a little at a time, and a little more with every miracle. So a lot of people talk about the importance of God's glory passing by Moses and how he was hidden in the cleft of the rock. And then it says in the end of this chapter, and this is the part I wanted to share with you about the artist, which I thought would be fun to show the kids. I actually thought about doing this with a paper mache like lantern, but God, I happen to have something else that's even more fun. So it says here, when he went back and wrote the 10 words again, it says, now it happened when Moses came down from Mount Sinai with the 2 tablets of the testimony in his hand. These are the new ones. And when he came down from the mountain, that Moses did not know that the skin of his face was radiant, because God had spoken with him. When Aaron and all of Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, saw Moses, the skin of his face shone like rays. So they were afraid to come near him. But Moses called out to them. So Aaron and all the rulers of the congregation returned to him, and Moses spoke to them. Afterward, all Bnei Israel came near, and he gave them all the mitzvot that Adonai had spoken to him in Mount Sinai. When Moses was done speaking with them, he put a veil over his face. But when Moses went before Adonai, so that he could speak with him, he took the veil off until he came out. When he came out and spoke to Bnei Israel, when he commanded, Bnei Israel saw the face of Moses, and then the skin of his face glistened. I love that translation. Glistened. It's a little bit more sparkly than glowing. Like, things can glow, but when things glisten, it's like the top of water when the sun shines off of it. Which leads me to my point that we know that God's Spirit is in us. But when God's Spirit is in us and then we spend time in God's glory, it's almost as if the light comes from within and the light shines off. So I want to just explore that for a second, because I think that's something fun you can show the kids. So it says here so Moses put the veil back over his face until he went in to speak with him. So I found out from my friend Jerome that there was an artist, and please, God of Israel, forgive me, because I would have loved to find his work. But he was very, very far in the past, because I remember looking at the pieces of art. But this particular artist would create the most beautiful, luminescent, shining faces of people in artwork. And what Jerome explained to me is that the artist would build a paper mache model of a person. And then, because it was way before electricity was invented, he used candles to light the inside of a paper mache face. And he would then paint what a person looks like, glowing from the inside and shining from the outside at the same time. So wouldn't you love to show that to the kids? So, okay, this is a crazy idea. But, okay, so let me just go for it. So I'm going to start with the candles, because I just think that's a cool idea. So I have these candles for you. I didn't make a paper mache head because, frankly, I'm just not that good at that kind of thing. And I had another alternative. So I'm going to see if this works. So here we're going to start a light, right? This is a light from indoors, and I'm going to ask Mandy. I'm going to put that on there. Eek. So then we're going to turn off the light behind us. Come on, you can do it, man. Turn off the light behind us. You can do it. And see if this works. Now, there's a glistening light, like when the light of God comes from inside you. But then also, there's the light of God like that. Like we're accustomed to that light. But, see, and I'm losing the fact that there's not enough, you can turn the light back on. There's not enough of these candles to make the point completely. And if you use paper mache and the backs were open, it would be more lit. But if you could look at the light shining inside, it's so different than the kind of light that shines from outside. Let's see if I can do it this way. No, see, it doesn't have enough light in there. But there is, and if you had a lighter head, you could even do it that way. But what if you taught the kids, what if you allowed the kids to make a paper mache, right, mask of themselves? And then if you would allow them to put a light behind it, like a flashlight shining behind it, where they could see from behind where the light was coming from. Because we don't really grasp the idea that the light of God shines inside us. It's not a light that's like from outside. You can also liken it to the difference between when the light shines off the moon versus when the light of the sun shines directly on your face. The light of God God is a source of light. We are a reflection of that light. So imagine what it would be like for Moses to have the light of God within him, right? And then to have to be in the glory of God in such a manner that it glistened off his face. In other words, his face couldn't absorb it because it was glistening and shining right off of him. I love the idea of what it is to be in the glory of God. I don't know that I completely understand what it means, but try to explain to the children that when people spend time in God's presence, there's something about them that glows with the light of Messiah. That would be a cool lesson for the kids. Have a great day.